Welcome to Wallace on Wire. Today, we're talking about Muhyiddin's call for a comprehensive review of the U.S.-Malaysia Trade Agreement. Now, this isn't just, standard political noise. The chairman of Perikatan Nasional, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, seems genuinely alarmed. We're looking into the actual text of the U.S.-Malaysia Reciprocal Trade Agreement. It was signed pretty recently, during the ASEAN summit.
Right. And Muhyiddin's core worry isn't just about trade figures. He's looking at these clauses, he calls them trap clauses. He thinks they're designed potentially to lead towards what he terms an economic colonization process.
Economic colonization. That's incredibly strong language.
It is. He sees it as a fundamental threat, a direct threat to Malaysia's future political and economic sovereignty.
And he's taking aim directly at the narrative from the U.S. side, isn't he? Specifically, the Trump administration's description. They called it mutually beneficial, accurate. Muhyiddin says that's flat out wrong. He used words like inaccurate, seriously misleading.
Yeah, and when a former prime minister speaks that bluntly, you have to ask what specific parts of the agreement are triggering this alarm. What's the perceived hidden agenda? Essentially, his argument boils down to this. These clauses, taken together, could seriously damage our political independence, our national security, and our economic self-determination.
It sounds like he thinks it jeopardizes our whole non-aligned stance.
That's exactly it. The potential compromise to our neutrality in global affairs is a huge part of his concern.
And then there's the really dramatic claim, the idea of becoming an agent state. He warned these clauses could lead Malaysia down a path to becoming, a satellite state for the U.S. in this region. He even used the phrase puppet state.
That terminology is really stark. It suggests a belief that key decision-making power is effectively shifting or could shift to Washington. And this hits a nerve because of Malaysia's history, our long-standing neutral foreign policy. It's something we've guarded quite fiercely.
So compromising that neutrality is a big deal.
A very big deal. Muhyiddin argues this agreement forces an alignment that contradicts that core principle of equal, unbiased relations with all major powers. It damages the idea of trading on an equal footing.
Okay, so if the puppet state concern is real, it must be rooted in specific clauses. Let's get into those details Muhyiddin pointed out. This is where we look at the actual text.
Right. The first big area is about our technical and regulatory independence. Clause 3.4 is mentioned, along with others. The problem seems to be twofold. First, the agreement apparently stops Malaysia from making U.S. investment conditional on technology transfer.
Wait, so a U.S. company invests here, sets up shop, but we can't legally require them to share their tech or train our people to use it.
That seems to be the interpretation, yes.
That's huge, isn't it? For developing local capability.
It could be. The argument is that without tech transfer requirements, we risk staying stuck in lower value activities like assembly instead of fostering local innovation.
Okay, what's the second part of that clause concern?
The second part is that Clause 3.4 might also require Malaysia to adopt U.S. standards. Think pharmaceuticals, food safety, maybe even media products.
So aligning standards, that sounds potentially efficient, but...
But Muhyiddin's warning is that it means we lose control. We give up our power to set national standards based on our own specific needs and priorities here in Malaysia. Our regulatory autonomy gets weakened.
Okay, let's shift to the geopolitics.
Yeah.
Clause 5.1. This one sounds like it ties us directly to U.S. foreign policy.
Muhyiddin highlighted this one, yeah. It apparently requires Malaysia to follow U.S. sanctions.
Follow U.S. sanctions, meaning if the U.S. sanctions country X,
then Malaysia might be obligated under this agreement to also sanction country X, cutting off trade potentially.
regardless of whether country X is a major trading partner for us.
Right.
Regardless of the hit to Malaysian businesses or the ringgit.
That's the implication Muhyiddin seems to be drawing. It suggests a pretty significant alignment, moving beyond just trade into foreign policy coordination. He sees it as part of that potential hidden agenda.
Is that kind of clause common in trade deals?
We're seeing it more from the U.S., often framed around things like anti-money laundering or counterterrorism. But the interpretation here, Muhyiddin's interpretation, suggests it could go further, maybe even into secondary sanctions compliance. For a nation like Malaysia, heavily reliant on global trade, losing the autonomy to choose trading partners based on our own national interests, well, that's a serious potential loss of sovereignty.
Okay, what about the digital side? Clause 5.3 and data sovereignty, you mentioned that.
Yes, Clause 5.3 reportedly grants the U.S. direct access to Malaysian customs data and customs affairs.
Direct access to customs data. What does that actually mean for us, for the average person listening? What is data sovereignty in this context?
Well, data sovereignty basically means our national data is governed by our laws. Customs data is incredibly sensitive stuff. It shows who's trading what, the volumes, the values, supply chains, even intellectual property details. Muhyiddin's argument is that giving another country, especially the U.S., direct access to this stream of information means we lose control over vital economic intelligence.
So they could map our entire economy in real time, see our company's activities.
Potentially, yes. It raises the question, if another power has that kind of insight, how independent are our national economic controls, really?
That's concerning. But then there are the physical assets. Strategic resources, Clause 6.2. This feels like the core of it, potentially.
It's definitely critical. Clause 6.2 deals with things like rare earth elements, oil, and gas. And the reported terms are quite strict. It apparently forbids Malaysia from putting quotas or export restrictions on these strategic resources.
So we couldn't say, for example, we need to keep more rare earths for our own future industries, so we're limiting exports this year.
According to Muhyiddin's reading of Clause 6.2, no, we couldn't impose such restrictions, especially towards the U.S. And what's more, the clause apparently requires Malaysia to facilitate supply on terms favorable to the U.S.
Facilitate supply. That sounds like we're obligated to help them get what they want.
That's the fear. It positions Malaysia as primarily a raw materials supplier, potentially hindering our ability to develop our own high-value downstream industries using those resources. Those industries could be worth billions of ringgit.
If we can't control the export of our own strategic minerals.
We lose leverage. We lose the ability to shape our own industrial future using those assets. That's Muhyiddin's central argument on this clause.
And we need to remember what these resources are. Rare earths are vital for everything from advanced defense tech to EVs to smartphones. They're foundational for the modern economy.
Absolutely. And Muhyiddin connects this back to why Malaysia is strategically important. It's not just the Strait of Malacca, though that's key. It's also our resources. High-quality rare earths, oil, gas. These are crucial for global high-tech and military sectors. It makes us, geopolitically significant.
So given all this, Muhyiddin is demanding action from the government, right? There's a timeline.
Yes, he pointed out that the agreement entered a 6-month suspension period just last week. His demand is clear. The government must start a comprehensive review immediately before that period ends. A public review.
And he wants transparency throughout this process.
Completely. He's calling for the government to explain every clause clearly to all members of parliament and also to stakeholders, industry groups, civil society, everyone involved. The idea is to have rapid consultations, really scrutinize the deal, and make sure it's fair and just, to prevent what he called new colonialism hidden in a trade deal.
So for you listening, this boils down to a critical question. Is this agreement truly reciprocal, genuinely beneficial for Malaysia in the long run? Or does it, as Muhyiddin warns, risk compromising our independence, our control over vital resources like rare earths and national data? We're talking potential long-term costs that could run into billions of ringgit.
And it raises that fundamental issue. Where does trade end and security alignment begin? When does an economic partnership start dictating your foreign policy and your nation's future path? That's the line Muhyiddin Yassin argues these clauses may have already crossed. It's a debate we absolutely need to have.
Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.